Hello and welcome. This is Michael Beach, and you are dialed into the What Are You Doing podcast. This is the show for thought leaders who are investing in the next generation of leadership for their organization. And this is also the show for emerging leaders who want to become that next generation of great leaders. Together, we can develop the next generation of great, dynamic leaders who will lead their organizations to great success. All of us at Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting are excited to be able to bring you another podcast episode today. We love contributing to the success of forward-thinking, fast-growth companies who are changing the world day after day. I'm especially excited today to have the opportunity to introduce you to today's special guest, my friend and a terrific leader, Clint May, the Chief Operating Officer with Gray Mechanical in Houston, Texas. Welcome, Clint.
Michael, thank you for having me on, man. I'm flattered to be invited, and I can't wait to spend a little bit of time talking leadership with you.
Good to have you here today, my friend. You were one of our guests early in the show, and it's absolutely tremendous to have you back to visit with us again today. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thoroughly enjoyed it last time, and I certainly appreciate the invite again.
Well, listeners, let me tell you more about Clint. In his role as COO, Clint oversees all aspects of the operations of the construction business at Gray Mechanical. Gray Mechanical is a licensed heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing contractor that provides services for general contractors and building owners throughout the great state of Texas. Clint and his team specialize in the installation of HVAC and plumbing solutions for healthcare, commercial, office, retail, government, education, and also industrial projects. In addition, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Clint is a big Texas A&M football fan. Go Aggies, right, Clint?
That's right. Here you go.
He's also a voracious reader of books on leadership, mindsets, attitude, philosophy, discipline, all kinds of stuff. He's definitely a Renaissance man. Clint, it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you today. And I kind of want to explore what you've learned during your leadership career. So with no further ado, should we get into the interview?
Absolutely.
Okay. You've been busy recently at Gray Mechanical, taking your acknowledgement of your colleagues to a whole new level. It's obvious to me that you're working hard to make sure that your team knows how much you appreciate their contributions. Can you kind of walk us through that? What are you doing and why?
Absolutely. So, we're a business that practices the traction method, and
Okay.
one of the rocks that I had for the past year and that we developed as a leadership team was to do a little bit better job, showing gratitude and genuinely saying thank you to the people who deserve it. And that effort started earlier this year, and we put some plans together to at the individual level to acknowledge people who are doing well, and not only just doing well, people that have been tenured here for a while. This business started back in 2008 or so. And, we have some quite a few people that are 5 and 10 year tenured here now.
Nice.
And we spent a lot of time acknowledging each and every one of them and showing gratitude there. And, it's funny, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but I'm a big subscriber to podcasts, and there's a podcast by Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford. And he had an awesome podcast that really hit home with me a couple of months ago that I shared with the whole company. It was about optimizing and controlling brain chemistry to improve your well-being. And, why does that relate to this? So he talks a lot about a lot of different neurological items, day-to-day interactions. And one thing that is secreted in your brain is called serotonin. And it's the neurochemical that is secreted inside the brain that promotes feelings of comfort, satiety, happiness, and general well-being. Right?
I love serotonin.
Yeah, the stuff that makes you feel good,
Yes, it does.
What was interesting about the study was they studied gratitude and the effects of giving, receiving, and observing gratitude. So three different buckets, right? Giving, gratitude, receiving, and observing. And I had my opinions on what would produce the most bang for your buck, so to speak, the most amount of serotonin. And I was wrong. Much to my surprise, it turns out that observing others giving and receiving gratitude is the most potent way to increase serotonin inside the body. So what that study concluded was when you see somebody get a pat on the back and you know they deserve it, that's your peak. That's like the highest level of serotonin from at least from this study.
Nice.
So it's our brains crave it, and every person, regardless of role, regardless of responsibility, and regardless of what's going on in their life, that just makes everything better. You know, it adds value to everybody,
sure,
especially when you see it. So my challenge to our organization was, hey, when was the last time you recognized a job well done by a peer? When was the last time you went out of your way to let someone know you appreciate them? And, how good did it feel when you were recognized for a job well done? So I tasked our operations team to go pick 2 people in the business and take it serious, not pencil whip it, and take it serious and say thank you. And I'd like to see the reactions, make it unsolicited. And they did. And it was an incredible exercise. And we've copied and pasted that exercise multiple times throughout the organization.
Neat.
And it's amazing how much impact you can have on somebody just by saying, hey, you know what? You're really good at your job. Like, hey, you're just flat doing a great job. And, you look back on those things and it's like, God, I can't remember the last time I told John that he was doing a great job. And you go, geez, why does it have to take reading a book or listening to a podcast to energize somebody to go tell them they're doing a good job?
I have to imagine that doing this feels pretty good.
Absolutely.
Does it?
Absolutely. Good. Yeah, absolutely. It's very gratifying to do it and rewarding those people and saying, hey, you're doing a great job. That's one way. Some other ways that we've focused this year to try to knock that off the rock list. We started a health initiative a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And it combines both physical health and mental health. I'm a firm believer in getting things up here right. Before you can get physically right. And so we spent a lot of time this year putting together, we sent a survey out to most of the office employee as a pilot program. We have around 200 employees and we have about 35 or so in the office. So we wanted to use the office employees as a pilot program and gauge interest. So we sent a survey out that said, hey, who would be interested in being part of these 3 initiatives? And the first one was to lose weight. The second one was to either form or break a habit.
Okay.
And the third one was general mental health, meditation, and journaling.
Okay.
And so there was general interest in all 3. And
wonderful.
I tried to champion and lead all of them. And I can, with absolute confidence, say that it is exactly what the doctor ordered. There were a lot of lingering issues from 2020 and the pandemic that put a lot of stress on a lot of people in the last year and a half. And everybody copes and handles things differently. And general mental and physical health adds value regardless of whatever your physical or mental position is.
Yeah.
So the weight loss group has lost a combined close to 90 pounds in about 40 days, which is just wildly impressive to me. The habits group, we've got a couple of people that have stopped smoking and that are taking up journaling habits and just
fantastic.
And just adding years to their lives.
Wow.
And so we're extra fired up about that. And then the mental health group and the meditation group, there's been a lot of great discussion with key people in our organization about, hey, I've been there. I've been there and doing what you're doing and have experienced a lot of the same things. And it's a really great experience when you can talk about that with somebody. So as a way to give back, we've incentivized all three of those groups financially, and we've been reimbursing monthly expenses to support those efforts. And that's our way of giving back. And that's our way of, we have a financial gain. If you lose at least 5% of your body weight, you get a pretty healthy payout, which 3 people have done so far in 30 days, which is incredible. So perfect time around Christmas time right now, so anyways, those are the things, we chose to focus on telling people they're doing a great job, and then trying to put together tangible programs that increase physical and mental health across the organization, because it makes everything better.
Well, it seems like it's going really well, man. Keep up the good work.
I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it.
Well, Clint, I want to talk a little bit about the business. Tell us a little bit about what you're excited about at Gray Mechanical Contractors these days. What's going on out there in Houston that excites you about what you're delivering to your customers these days?
Absolutely. So I'm very excited about the personnel we have just in general. I think that there are teams in this business that are hands down the best teams that we've had since its inception. And I can't, if you were telling a 22, 23-year-old me that, I would probably forget that in 5 or 10 seconds, thinking, hey, whatever, everybody says that. But I can tell you with absolute certainty, after 13 years of trying to build the right teams, get the right people, recruit the right people, and then once you got them, put them in the right spot on the bus. I wish there was a class for that, because that would have been great to take.
Yeah, that seems like the right sort of thing to have a class for, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have found a really good group of people, thanks to the help of some screening programs we've put in place, just smarter hiring, smarter recruiting,
right?
Better data and better analytics. Those are all things that we used to just not necessarily do, when we were a younger company, and we have just invested and poured time and money into getting it right. And we feel like we're in the best place that we've been so far to do that. I got to tell you, you can stack backlog and you can stack opportunities up, over the span of 6 to 12 months. But if you don't have people that you can lock arms with and go to battle with, all that backlog is totally meaningless. And your reputation and your livelihood and your the way you carry yourself, all that relies on all the people that are around you. Some leaders, unfortunately, I don't think understand that and think it's a one-man show.
So true.
It's not. It's just flat out not the one-man show. That's probably what I'm most excited about. We separate ourselves by taking ownership of everything in our world. There's no shortage of Jocko Willink quotes and extreme ownership sayings around our office. Yeah, we're big. We're big believers in that philosophy.
Sure.
And we joke about this. Pointing fingers to somebody else is about the fastest way to get a pink slip in our organization. We don't do that.
Well, you're doing a lot of things right. I know the company very, very well, and I get the opportunity to speak to a lot of your coworkers, and there isn't a one among them that I wouldn't want to have on my team, right? I think you guys are doing a terrific job of hiring. You're doing a terrific job of acknowledging the efforts of your people now, and your approach to accountability is as good as any I've ever seen at any company nationwide. It's so palpable to me, the way you feel about your customers and the way you feel about your employees. There's nothing insincere about it whatsoever. It's just genuine love and care. And if it's not good enough for you, then it's not going to be good enough for your customers. And you guys stand behind your work. And when something's not right, you fix it. And when something isn't quite your best work, you're often going to go back and work at it until it is. I just think that's a great way to treat people. So
I care a lot about
very
it.
Cool. You've always been a leader that makes considerable investments in your people. What I'd like you to share with our listeners today, Clint, is what you and the rest of your great leadership team at Gray Mechanical are investing in. I know you've got an emerging leaders program. You're on kind of your second cohort of that, and you've got leadership development coaching programs going on for everybody on the leadership team. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing, and maybe more importantly, why.
Sure. You know, we have to be living in a world where we're constantly trying to be better. I think complacency kills. And in an organization our size, you know, the leadership team just can't touch everyone.
Right.
We have to facilitate the desire to be better and develop up and down the chain of command. We have to incentivize in the proper ways to help people and create an incentive to be better, because, you know, nobody wants to just be the status quo. And, you know, the challenging part of leadership and the challenging part of a lot of these initiatives are there are always individuals that may not think that they need to improve, or may not think that they need to change the way that they think. And they, you know, your job as a leader is to recognize those people who are, you know, stuck in their ways, I guess is the right, the right terminology, and be effective in the way that you persuade and increase awareness, so that they come around to seeing, hey, maybe there is something tangible with these DISC profiles and the way we communicate with people. And maybe I should do a little bit better job listening. And maybe I shouldn't be the guy who's interrupting every single conversation when somebody's having it.
Sure.
So we take all that serious, but there is also so many hours in a day.
Right.
And if we have 200 employees, there's just no way to touch everybody and give them the proper amount of time. So what we did was decide to invest time and money into other resources to help with that, and facilitate face-to-face meetings with business coaches, with industrial leaders in our business, and try to get advice. Encourage reading. We put a financial incentive on reading some developmental books. We have a Gray Mechanical library.
Nice. So
we put all of that together. For all the parents listening to this episode, you can kind of relate to this. So you always preach your best practices to your children. You can say, don't play with fire till you're blue in the face. Right.
Right.
And they hear you and they nod, and then you turn your back and there they go playing with those matches, because they're tired of listening to dad or to mom just tell them, hey, don't do this, stop doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then one day, their cool uncle or their cool aunt or their cool older friend says, hey, man, you should probably not play with those matches if you don't want to catch your hair on fire. And then all of a sudden it clicks with them and they go, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And you just look at that and you go, man, if you'd just listened to me the first time, I got a little bit of wisdom here, The hair that I had fell out. So there's a little bit of gray and no hair. There's a little bit of wisdom, I think, there. Learn from my mistakes. But believe it or not, it's the exact same thing with grown men and women, me included.
Sure.
Sometimes a third party has a stronger effect on their decision to be better as opposed to somebody they work with. So if Stan in accounting is telling a project manager, hey, man, you may need to tone it down a little bit. Maybe the PM's like, man, who is this guy telling me to tone it down? But all of a sudden, you got a business coach who's like, hey, my suggestion would be to maybe tone it down a little bit. And they're like, you know what? I probably should tone it down a little bit. It has a great effect a lot of times. So we choose to invest in that approach when it's needed and encourage as much coaching as possible, especially to those who have the awareness and realize that they need it. Those are the easiest home runs every time, when people are just like, you know what, there's value in this. And then the people who don't see the value in it, it's your job as a leader to persuade them and try to convince them.
Well, I applaud you. Your company is a shining example of what is possible. I've gotten the opportunity to watch you guys up close for about 4 years. Maybe even we might be going on 5 years by now, Clint.
Right.
And there have been so many wonderful, positive changes in your organization during that time. And I know we're not done. There's plenty more coming. And you and the rest of the very committed members of your leadership team are using this traction EOS methodology and a lot of other things that you are working hard at to make your business better one quarter at a time. It's amazing to me how much change happens in the course of 90 days time, but even more happens across a year after you've put 4 quarters of change behind you. So keep up the good work there. You're doing wonderful things.
Thank you.
Clint, I would love for you to imagine that you're in an interview with a bright-eyed college student and they're just about to start their career. What wisdom would you share with them now that you've had the benefit of being in your career for a while? What would you tell them just as they're getting started?
I enjoy questions like this because I think about that, whenever I'm by myself sometimes. I'm like, man, what would I go tell 23-year-old me?
Sure.
And there's a couple things. The first one, and I think it's maybe a little cliche, but separate yourself. The world is chock full of people who just want to get by and, kind of work the minimum. And what I would tell anybody who's coming out of college or starting a new career, whichever, I would say, hey, your income, your earnings potential, your overall lifestyle, all of that's going to coincide with whatever mentality you choose to bring to work every day. And at some point, it's got to click with you that you got to be the best at what you do and make the sacrifices that are required to get you there. A lot of people don't want to do that. Maybe they're not wired that way. Maybe they don't see the need to do that. You just create an environment where you're so critical. If you are the guy or girl separating yourself in the organization in whatever fashion, it doesn't matter what position and what level. If you're good at what you do, you will have a spot in the organization. That's how it works every time,
right?
No matter the organization. The second thing, this is something that I realized later in my career that I wish I would have realized a long time ago. And that is stop trying to be right and start being effective. Right?
I like it.
There's a book called Raising Men that is written by a Navy SEAL sniper instructor. His name's Eric Davis. I have a son. I've got a 3-year-old son. And it's a book about raising men and the example to set, the discipline to have. It's a lot of leadership related things, but it's tailored more towards being a father. And I've read that book probably 2.5 times. And
must be a good one.
Yeah, and one of the chapters is about stop trying to be right and start being effective. And I just read, it's a couple of paragraphs, and I read it, and I was like, God, for years I have been debating, arguing, talking with people with nothing but facts and data and no ability to persuade, no ability to tailor my communication style and tone and be an effective listener and effective communicator. And the people who are the most effective leaders that can go and implement positive change have the ability to be effective and don't focus on just black and white and being right and wrong. Boy, whenever I got that ingrained in my head, my outlook on how to persuade, how to influence, and how to listen really changed. So in keeping with that, the third one would be to invest in emotional intelligence. On the last podcast, we spoke a little bit about this as well. I would say that most people don't know what it is. And when I was introduced to it back in 2016 or 17, it is exactly what I needed at the time. And taking the time to understand people's motives and what makes them the way that they are is just so critical. It's one of the most powerful tools you can have, not just in your career, but personally. A lot of people don't see the value in changing the way they listen and communicate and carry themselves. And they just say, hey, that's just how I am. I'm deal with it kind of mentalities. And that's just the most ineffective way to properly lead, persuade, and otherwise be a good listener. And those people lack awareness and are unlikely to adapt their techniques for better listening and communication. So it helps you in your personal life, helps you with relationships, it helps you with family, it helps you, generate positive change. And I wish somebody would have told me that earlier.
Well, thank goodness you got the news when you did.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think emotional intelligence is just a huge differentiator. And, you know that we make it a big part of the way we coach everyone that we coach nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of our clients gets an emotional intelligence assessment early in their coaching program and then 6 or 12 months later. And we always watch a phenomenal amount of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into a thoughtful discussion with each of our clients and say, hey, how much is this increase in emotional intelligence paid off for you? Have you noticed any, benefits from it? And the benefits are always extraordinary, as you know, because instead of conflicting with people, now you start collaborating with them. And instead of disrespecting them, you're respecting them. And it just works so much better when everybody's on the same page and being at their best and trusting and respecting one another. And that's really what emotional intelligence is mostly about. Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Right now, when the pressure's on and you're feeling upset, who do you want to be? You can fly off the handle and regret it later, or you can take a deep breath, maybe count to 10 and take a more sensible approach. And then you won't have anything to apologize for.
Yeah, have some discipline. Don't regret it later.
Yeah.
The first part of that book really hit home with me when it said that in a study of income as it relates to EQ and IQ, EQ being, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but EQ being a measurement of emotional intelligence and IQ being a measurement of raw intelligence.
Right.
That your earnings potential trends much higher with EQ instead of IQ. And that's counterintuitive to, I think, what a lot of people think. They think high IQ, high brain power. It's like, man, if you had a Ferrari that was a standard, but you didn't know how to drive a standard, how good is that Ferrari, right? So that emotional intelligence, that data that supports, success and income generation as it relates to increasing EQ just really resonated with me. And understanding your why whenever you're reading a book on the front end is really important if you want to maximize your retention. And that really nailed it for me. So
cool.
Strongly recommend it.